Thank you for the question. And we get a lot of requests for evidence. They've just become part of the normal practice of immigration law. And so it's a few things that you need to keep in mind whenever you get a request for evidence or RFE. First of all, take it seriously. When USCIS says that they want more evidence, if that RFE is not responded to within the allotted time, then USCIS can deny your entire case. And that may leave you with absolutely no immigration status, which can, of course, mean that deportation proceedings or removal proceedings might be initiated against you. So the time to look at the RFE and figure out what documents you need is the day that you get it. Sometimes RFEs get lost in the mail. And so if you have the ability, you should sign up for an electronic account with USCIS so that you can monitor that and get automatically updated electronically if an RFE issues in your case. The second thing is you got to understand that RFEs are typically very boilerplate. They will try sometimes to be able to explain what it is that you need to submit, but honestly, you need to be able to understand what the law is behind the actual request. So if you submitted a birth certificate and you submitted the wrong type, or perhaps the birth certificate you submitted was registered very late in life or very recently, not within the first year after your birth, and USCIS is having a problem with the birth certificate, and that's why they issue the RFE. You need to be able to understand what the legal ask is and be able to hold them to their burden of proof and to the acceptable level of a burden of proof to make sure that they don't ask for something or require something that you're legally not required to submit. Okay, so the main takeaway here is you want to make sure that you understand the law behind the request, because some RFEs are very simple, but others can be responded to in a different way. Right? By explaining the law behind it, by perhaps explaining why the documentation you submitted was actually legally sufficient and didn't have the objections that USCIS seems to have against it. A lot of times they'll say that you perhaps didn't submit enough evidence of commingling of your assets in the case of a marriage basis, or they might ask you to prove in the case of an H-1B visa that your job qualifies as a specialty occupation. All of these things require not just documentation to be submitted, but legal argument to be able to understand, to be able to explain why either the evidence that you submitted the first time was legally sufficient, or why the documentation you're submitting now, adding to it, is legally sufficient in order to qualify you for the benefit that you're seeking. So there is a lot more to RFEs than just simply looking at it and following the list of instructions on there, because that won't necessarily get you out of the request. And if you mess up or submit something, or ask yourself, as many of our clients unfortunately do, why are they asking for this? I don't need to submit it, right? Please do not make that mistake. And that's the last thing I'll say about this. Don't make the mistake of saying, well, immigration can look it up themselves. They already have this information. Why do I have to submit it? Right? The burden of proof, the burden of showing that you qualify for whatever you're seeking, a green card or an H-1B or citizenship or whatever, the burden of proof is not on immigration. The burden of proof is on you. Okay? And if you're working with us, then the burden of proof is on us to show that. Even if immigration has all the information, even if they have it all, if they ask you for it, you have to provide it. Otherwise, they are within their rights to deny your entire case, and that can lead to a whole lot of nasty problems. So take your RFE seriously. Don't wait too long, because time can be very limited. And sometimes you've got to get documents from overseas, and it can take time. And there's the COVID slowdown, etc. So you want to make sure that you get started early, ideally the day that you get the RFE. Monitor your electronic notifications so that you can save yourself some time. Understand the law behind it, of why they're asking what they're asking for, and be able to submit a response that's not just factual, but also legal? Thanks for the question.